Welcome back. The UAE's financial markets are closed today. Trading will resume on Sunday. So let's now take a look at the various currencies, followed by the price of oil and commodities. US House Speaker John Boehner broke off talks with President Barack Obama on Friday on a deficit reduction deal to prevent a devastating default, and said he would try to hammer out an agreement through the Senate. In a dramatic turn of events, with the deadline to raise the US debt ceiling just 11 days away, a stern-faced Obama expressed frustration at the Republican leader's move. Obama insisted he had made an extraordinarily fair offer to Boehner, but when the Republicans stopped returning his calls on Friday, it became clear that he would not accept it. The president said he was summoning Democratic and Republican leaders to the White House today in a last-ditch effort to find a path forward on raising the debt limit.
We have run out of time, and they are going to have to explain to me how it is that we are going to avoid default. And they can come up with any plans that they want and bring them up here, and we will work on them. The only bottom line that I have is that we have to extend this debt ceiling through the next election into 2013.
I want to be entirely clear. No one wants to default on the full faith and credit of the United States government. And I'm convinced that we will not. Starting tonight, I'll be working with colleagues here in the Capitol, both the House and the Senate, to find a responsible path forward. And I have confidence in the bipartisan leaders of the Congress that can come together and to ensure that we have an agreement that will allow the country to avoid default and meets the principles that we've outlined. Spending cuts that must be greater than the increase in the debt limit, and no tax increases.
US stocks climbed on Thursday as signs of progress on the US debt talks, a day before US House Speaker John Boehner broke off talks with President Barack Obama, and concrete action from Europe on its own debt crisis heartened investors. Unexpectedly robust results from Morgan Stanley, whose shares rose 11% to $24.20 US, extended a relief rally in bank stocks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 1.21% to 12,724. The S&P 500 index rose 1.35% to 1,343, and the Nasdaq Composite Index advanced 0.72% to 2,834. Stocks moved to session highs after the White House said it saw momentum for a balanced deficit deal. Volume saw an upswing with about 8.09 billion shares traded on the New York Stock Exchange, NYSE, Amex, and Nasdaq above the daily average of 7.49 billion. The Greek Prime Minister told his cabinet on Friday that Greece had survived economic disaster after Eurozone leaders agreed on a second rescue package for the debt-stricken country. He stated that they were on the edge of an abyss but did not give up. An emergency summit of leaders of the 7Nation currency area on Thursday pledged to conduct a second bailout of Greece with an extra 109 billion euros of government money, plus a contribution by private sector bondholders estimated to total as much as 50 billion euros by mid-2014. However, Papandreou warned that there was still much to be done to implement the economic reforms needed to reduce the country's deficit, and in line with the terms of the rescue agreements. Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez announced on Friday that his country now has 25% of OPEC's crude oil reserves and 20% of the world's crude oil reserves. According to OPEC's latest annual statistical bulletin, Venezuela's holdings climbed to 296.5 billion barrels from 211.2 billion in 2009. The boost in Venezuela's figures helped OPEC attain a larger share of the global total. OPEC holds 81.3% of the world's proven crude reserves, up from 79.6% in 2009, according to the report. Saudi Arabia is OPEC's largest exporter, and its reserves were steady at 264.5 billion barrels. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev has been discussing plans to widen the territory of Russia's capital more than twofold to develop the city into an international financial centre that will rival London, Dubai and Singapore. During a meeting with the Moscow authorities, he stated that the task of creating a new institution, the Moscow Financial Centre, and new infrastructure must be created for it. Moscow is currently comprised of 107,000 hectares, which is to be expanded to 144,000 hectares and could take up to 20 years. According to Moscow Mayor's office, the plan for the financing and organisation of the expansion project will take up to a year. Up next, we've got the day's sports news for you, so stay with us.